The television died mid-sentence during the weather forecast, placed by a harsh tone that made 6-year-old Luna drop her cereal spoon. The emergency alert banner stretched across the screen in bold red letters. But it was the message itself that made Meredith's coffee cup freeze halfway to her lips. Emergency alert. Stay inside until the second moon disappears. Do not look directly at either celestial body. Close all blinds and curtains. This is not a test. Ravi, Meredith called to her husband, who was upstairs getting ready for work. You need to see this. 14-year-old Kai looked up from his phone, where the same alert had just appeared across every social media app. Mom, what's a second moon like? Is this some kind of joke? The alert repeated 3 more times before regular programming resumed, but the meteorologist looked shaken as he returned to his forecast. Well, folks, I'm not sure what that was about, but let's continue with today's weather. We're expecting clear skies and 75. The feed cut again. Ravi's footsteps thundered down the stairs. Did you see that alert, son? Every channel, every app, too. Kai added, refreshing his phone. Look, people are already posting pictures. He held up his screen, showing a photo someone had taken from their backyard. There, hanging in the morning sky next to the fading crescent moon, was another sphere. This one was larger, darker, with a surface that seemed to shift and ripple like water. That's not possible, Meredith whispered. Moons don't just appear. Luna pressed her face against the kitchen window. I want to see the new moon, Mommy. No, Meredith said quickly, pulling her daughter away from the glass. The alert said not to look. But why? Luna's lower lip trembled. Is it scary? Before anyone could answer, their neighbor Tobias began pounding on the front door. Ravi opened it to find the elderly man standing there in his bathrobe, his usually neat white hair disheveled. You folks seeing this moon business? Tobias asked, breathing heavily. My wife, Esther. She looked at it when it first showed. Up about an hour ago. Kay. Now she won't stop staring out the window. Won't talk to me. Won't move. Just stands there, looking up at the sky. What do you mean, she won't stop? Meredith asked. I mean, she's been standing in the exact same spot for 47 minutes. I timed it. Her eyes haven't blinked. Once, the family exchanged worried glances. Kai was already pulling up news websites on his phone. Mom, look at this. There are reports coming in from all over. People are calling it moon sickness or something. Anyone who looks directly at the second moon just stops. Stops what? Ravi asked. Everything, but they stop moving. Stop talking. Stop responding. But they keep staring at the sky. The television flickered again, and this time a haggard-looking news anchor appeared. Dark circles rimmed her eyes, and she kept glancing nervously at something off camera. We're receiving reports from major cities worldwide about a phenomenon affecting those who have viewed the celestial anomaly directly. Medical professionals are calling it a form of catalepsy, but the cause remains unknown. Dr. Martinez from Johns Hopkins is standing by. The screen split to show a tired-looking doctor in scrubs. What we're seeing is unlike anything in medical literature. The affected individuals show no brain activity in regions associated with voluntary movement or speech, yet they remain conscious and aware. It's as if something is overriding their motor functions. Dr. Martinez, how many people are we talking about? His current estimates suggest anywhere from 50,000 to 70,000 individuals worldwide, but the number is climbing rapidly. We're urging everyone to follow the emergency alert guidelines and remain indoors with all windows covered. The broadcast cut to shaky cell phone footage from various cities. In every video, people stood motionless in parking lots, on rooftops, in their yards, all facing the same direction, all staring upward with unblinking eyes. This is insane, Kai muttered. Look at this one from downtown Portland. The video showed hundreds of people standing in Pioneer Square, packed together, like statues in a museum. They had abandoned their cars in the middle of intersections, left their coffee shops and offices, all drawn outside by something that compelled them to look up. Luna tugged on her mother's shirt. "Mommy, the man next door is crying." I turned to see Tobias through their front window, tears streaming down his face as he spoke frantically to someone on his phone. His voice carried through the glass. "Please, you have to send someone. She's been out there for over an hour now. The sun's getting hot, and she won't drink water, won't come inside. I tried to carry her in, but she's like a statue. Skin is getting red from the sun, but she won't move." Meredith closed the blinds quickly. "Everyone stay away from the windows. We need to figure out what's happening." "I'm calling my brother," Robbie said, pulling out his phone. "He works at the observatory. Anyone knows about astronomical events, it's him." But when he dialed, the call went straight to voicemail. He tried again with the same result. "Dad, try texting him," Kai suggested. Robbie typed quickly. "Emergency alert about second moon. Are you safe? Call me." The response came back almost immediately. "Can't talk. Outside. Must watch. Beautiful." The phone slipped from Ravi's hand. He looked. Meredith realized. Your brother looked at the moon. The house felt smaller suddenly, as if the walls were closing in. Outside, they could hear more neighbors talking urgently to each other. Car doors slamming, emergency sirens in the distance. But underneath it all was a strange silence, as if the world was holding its breath. Kai refreshed his social media feeds. Obsessively. "The videos are getting weird, Mom. Look at this." He showed them a live stream from someone's backyard security camera. A woman stood in the center of the frame, facing upward, completely still. But as they watched, other people began entering the frame from different directions. Mailman, a jogger, a child on a bicycle. One by one, they each stopped in the same spot. Okay, their heads tilting back at the exact same angle. "They're all looking at the same point in the sky," Meredith observed, "even though they're in different locations." "That doesn't make sense," Ravi said. If they're looking at the moon, they should be facing different directions depending on where they are." Luna had been quietly coloring at the kitchen table, but now she spoke up in her small voice. "They're not looking at the moon." Adults turned to stare at her. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Meredith asked. "Maybe they're looking at something else, something that looks like a moon, but isn't." Before anyone could respond, the emergency alert system activated again. This time, the message was different. Emergency alert. The second moon is not a moon. Repeat, the second moon is not a moon. Maintain shelter. Do not attempt rescue of affected individuals. Further instructions to follow. Not a moon, Kai whispered. "Then what is it?" The television switched to a new broadcast, this one featuring a panel of scientists in what looked like an underground bunker. The lead scientist, a woman with silver hair and frightened eyes, leaned toward the camera. "We've been monitoring the object since it appeared at approximately 6:15 this morning, Eastern Time. Initial analysis suggested it was some kind of satellite or space debris, but we were wrong. The object is not in Earth's orbit. Our instruments indicate it's approximately 40 meters in diameter and positioned roughly 800 kilometers above the surface." "Doctor, you're saying this object is much closer than the moon?" the news anchor asked via satellite feed. "That's correct. But here's what's truly disturbing. The object isn't reflecting light like a celestial body should. It's generating its own light. And that light appears to be some form of directed energy beam focused on Earth's surface. A beam. What kind of beam? We're not certain, but preliminary data suggests it's affecting human neural pathways through visual exposure. The beam appears to override the brain's motor cortex while leaving sensory and cognitive functions intact. In simpler terms, people can think and feel, but they can't control their own bodies. The family sat in stunned silence as the implications sank in. So, everyone's standing outside, Meredith said slowly. They're trapped in their own bodies, Ravi confirmed grimly, conscious but paralyzed. A new sound made them all freeze. It was Luna, humming softly to herself as she colored. But the tune was strange, unlike anything she'd ever hummed before. It had an odd rhythm, almost like a pattern or code. Luna, honey, Meredith said carefully, where did you learn that song? Luna looked up with innocent eyes. I didn't learn it. It's coming from outside. They listened carefully, and underneath the distant sirens and shouting neighbors, there was indeed a sound, faint but growing stronger. Hundreds of voices, maybe thousands, all humming the same haunting melody. It's them, Kai breathed. The people outside, they're all humming. Ravi crept to the window and lifted one corner of the blind just enough to peek out. Tobias's wife, Esther, still stood in their yard, her face turned skyward, but now her mouth was moving slightly. The sound was coming from her and from every other motionless figure visible on the street. They're communicating, he realized. The being isn't just paralyzing them, it's connecting them somehow. The news broadcast continued, but the scientists looked increasingly panicked. We're detecting massive electromagnetic interference around affected individuals. It's almost as if they've become part of a larger network. A network for what purpose? The anchor pressed. We don't know, but we're seeing coordinated movement patterns. Groups of affected individuals are beginning to move in formation towards specific locations. Ways moving, always humming, always in perfect synchronization. As if on cue, Esther began walking. Her movement was fluid but odd, like someone learning to walk for the first time. She headed toward the street, where other neighbors were emerging from their yards, all moving in the same direction. They're leaving, Kai observed. Where are they going? The answer came from the television. A helicopter feed showed aerial views of major cities where thousands of people were converging on large open spaces, parks, stadiums, airports, and moved in perfect rows. There, humming audible even over the helicopter's rotors. This is downtown Chicago. The reporter's voice crackled through the feed. What you're seeing is approximately 15,000 individuals moving toward Grant Park. They began arriving 2 hours ago, and they are arranging themselves in complex geometric patterns. The camera zoomed in to show the affected people forming intricate designs across the park's landscapes, circles within circles, spirals that seemed to pulse with their collective movement. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Mom, Luna said quietly, still coloring, but now with more intensity. I think they're making a message. What kind of message, baby? It's a kind that only works when lots of people help. It's like when we made that big hopscotch pattern at school with the whole class. Meredith felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. Luna, how do you know that? But Luna had stopped responding. She was focused entirely on her coloring book, her small hand moving in rapid, precise strokes. When Meredith looked over her daughter's shoulder, she gasped. Luna wasn't coloring randomly anymore. She was drawing the same geometric patterns they've just seen on television, the same ones the affected people were creating in parks across the world, patterns she couldn't possibly have seen or understood. Ravi, Meredith called urgently. Look at this. But when she turned around, her husband was standing by the window with his back to them, one hand pressed against the glass. His head was tilted slightly upward, and his lips were moving soundlessly. Dad, Kai approached cautiously. A tad. Are you okay? Ravi didn't respond. His eyes had taken on a distant, unfocused quality, as if he was seeing something far beyond the window. He looked, Meredith realized, with horror. Somehow he looked at it, but that was impossible. The blinds were closed. The curtains were drawn. was no way he could have seen the object in the sky, lest the object could see through more than just an open sky, unless it could reach them anywhere. The humming outside grew louder. Okay, and now Luna was humming along, her small voice perfectly synchronized with the thousands of others. Her coloring became more frantic, filling page after page with the same impossible patterns. Kai grabbed his mother's arm. "Mom, we have to get out of here." "And go where?" Meredith asked, but she was already moving, gathering essentials into a bag. "If it can reach us through closed windows, where can we hide?" The television provided a partial answer. The scientist panel was now broadcasting from what looked like a deep underground facility. "We've determined that the beam's effectiveness decreases significantly with physical barriers. Underground shelters, particularly those with multiple levels of concrete and steel, appear to provide some protection. We're recommending that unaffected individuals seek shelter in basements, subway systems, or any underground facility immediately." "Basement," Meredith said. "We need to get to the basement." But as she turned to gather Luna, she found her daughter standing perfectly still, her coloring book fallen to the floor. Luna's face was tilted upward at that now familiar angle, her eyes wide and unblinking. "Luna, no," Meredith whispered. Reaching for her, Luna's mouth opened slightly. "Okay," and words came out in a voice that was hers, but somehow different older, more certain. "It's time to join the pattern, Mommy. The message is almost complete." Meredith's heart stopped as her 6-year-old daughter spoke in that strange, knowing voice. But instead of grabbing Luna and running, something made her pause. In all the chaos and terror of the morning, she had missed something important. "Luna," Meredith said carefully, "how long have you known this was going to happen?" Her daughter's head tilted slightly, still gazing upward despite the closed blinds. "I was born, Mommy. That's what I came here for." Kai backed toward the door, his phone clutched in his hands. "Mom, that's not Luna talking. Need to get out of here right now." "Wait," Meredith said, a strange calm settling over her. "Luna, what do you mean you came here for this?" Luna's eyes focused on her mother for the first time since the change began. Kay, there was still her daughter's warm brown eyes, but there was something ancient in them now. Something that had been hiding behind 6 years of childhood games and bedtime stories. "The probe arrived yesterday," Luna explained, her voice carrying an odd mix of her childish speech patterns and something far more sophisticated. "But I've been here for 6 years, getting ready, learning about humans, learning about you, learning about me. You're the pattern key, Mommy. You always were." On the television, the emergency broadcasts were becoming more frantic. The geometric formations in parks and stadiums around the world were growing more complex. Kay and the scientists couldn't figure out what they were building toward. Current estimates suggest we have maybe 4 hours before whatever they're constructing reaches completion. The lead scientist announced, "The electromagnetic readings are off the charts. If this is some kind of communication array or weapon, we may be looking at an extinction-level event." Ravi remained frozen by the window, his lips moving silently. But now Meredith noticed something the emergency broadcasts had missed. He wasn't just humming like the others. He was counting quietly, methodically, his lips forming numbers in sequence. "Luna, what's your father doing?" "Calculating trajectories. The probe needs precise measurements to complete its mission." "What mission?" Kai demanded, though he had stopped backing toward the door. Something in Luna's manner was more reassuring than terrifying. Despite the circumstances, Luna walked to her coloring book and held up the pages she had filled with geometric patterns. But now, seeing them all together, Meredith realized they weren't random designs at all. Okay, they were star charts, mathematical equations, orbital calculations. 3 days from now, an asteroid will hit Earth, Luna said simply. Not a big one like the dinosaur killer, but big enough to destroy most cities and kill about 2 billion people. The probe detected it 6 years ago and sent me to find the best mathematician on the planet. A mathematician. Meredith stared at her daughter. Luna, I'm an accountant. You're the most gifted mathematical mind born in the last century, Luna corrected. But you never knew it because you were never challenged properly. The probe has been watching you since college, waiting for the right moment. Kai looked between his mother and sister in disbelief. This is insane. Mom's good with numbers, but she's not some secret genius. Luna smiled then, and it was purely her 6-year-old smile, despite everything else. Show him, Mommy. Tell him what 17,412 times 8,963 equals without thinking. Meredith's mouth opened. 154,267,556. The room fell silent. How did you know that? Kai whispered. Meredith stared at her hands. I don't know. I just saw the numbers, and they arranged themselves. The probe needs someone who can calculate trajectory adjustments in real time, Luna explained. All those people outside aren't being controlled. They're being connected to a massive biological computer network with you as the central processor. But it only works if you volunteer. The television crackled with new reports. The geometric patterns worldwide had suddenly shifted, all changing at exactly the same moment. The affected people weren't just standing in formations anymore. They were moving in precise, coordinated waves, like living components of a vast machine. It's starting without you, Luna observed, but it won't work properly. The calculations will be wrong, and the asteroid will hit anyway. Millions of people would die trying to save billions. Meredith sank into a chair, her mind reeling. You're saying that thing in the sky is trying to save humanity? The probe is from Earth, Mommy, from 400 years in the future. Your descendant built it and sent it back in time to prevent this disaster. But time travel is complicated. The probe could only arrive 3 days before impact, and it needs enormous processing power to calculate the precise energy burst required to deflect the asteroid. Energy burst? Meredith asked. Luna pointed upward. That's not a tractor, beam, or a weapon. It's the world's most powerful computer processor connected to the most advanced network ever created. Human brains working together can solve problems that no machine can handle alone. But why the humming? Why the patterns? Synchronization protocols. When billions of neurons work together, they need to operate on the same frequency. Okay, the humming keeps everyone's brainwaves aligned. The geometric patterns optimize the network topology for maximum computational efficiency. Kai sat down heavily on the couch. So everyone outside is basically becoming part of a giant biological supercomputer. Exactly. But only if the central processing unit volunteers to join. Luna looked at her mother with those two old eyes. The probe can force the connection, but forced calculations are unreliable. To save Earth, it needs you to choose to help. And if I don't, then in 72 hours, an asteroid roughly the size of Manhattan hits the Pacific Ocean. The resulting tsunami destroys every coastal city in the world. The debris cloud blocks out the sun for 18 months. Global famine follows. Human civilization collapses within 5 years. The weight of that future settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Outside, the humming grew louder, more urgent. Through the walls, they could feel the vibration of thousands of people moving in perfect unison, all waiting for one woman's decision. How do I know you're telling the truth? Meredith asked. How do I know this isn't some kind of invasion? Luna reached into her coloring box and pulled out a crayon. Short strokes. She drew a detailed star map on the back of one of her coloring pages. Then she handed it to her mother. Check the asteroid tracking websites. Object designation 2025 LAM 47, discovered by the Catalina Sky Survey 6 hours ago. Currently classified as a near-Earth object, with low collision probability because they haven't calculated its exact trajectory yet. Kai was already pulling up astronomical databases on his phone. She's right, it's here. Discovered this morning. But they're calling it a routine flyby because they don't have enough processing power to run the complex gravitational calculations, Luna explained. By the time they realize it's going to hit, it will be too late to stop it. Meredith stared at the star map her 6-year-old daughter had drawn. The mathematical precision was beyond anything she had ever seen, and yet, somehow, she understood every notation, every orbital calculation. If I joined this network, she said slowly, what happens to me? Do I become like them? Standing motionless, humming, only during the calculation phase, once. The probe fires its deflection burst. The network dissolves. Everyone goes back to normal. The probe self-destructs to prevent temporal paradoxes. You return to your regular life. And if I don't? Luna's expression grew sad. Then, I failed my mission. I return to the future and report that humanity chose to die rather than trust me. You're really from the future. I'm your great dash, great dash, great dash, great dash, great dash granddaughter. Mommy, I volunteered to come back because you're the only person in history who ever figured out how to make this work. In my timeline, you make the choice to save the world. Free will means you could also choose differently. Suddenly stopped counting and turned around. His eyes were clearer now, though still distant. Meredith, he said in his normal voice, I can see the math. It's beautiful, and it's real. You're okay? Better than okay. I can see how the universe fits together, how every calculation connects to every other calculation. It's like seeing the source code of reality itself. The television flickered again, showing new footage from around the world. The patterns of people had evolved into incredibly complex three-dimensional structures. In Beijing, they had formed a living representation of a DNA helix that stretched for miles. In London, they had created a perfect spiral galaxy shape that pulsed with coordinated movement. 60 minutes until optimal calculation window, announced Luna, though her voice now carried harmonics that resonated with the humming outside. After that, the asteroid's trajectory will be too fixed to alter. Meredith looked at her family, her husband, connected to the vast network, but still himself, her teenage son, frightened but trusting, her daughter, who had traveled across centuries to save the world. What do I need to do? She asked. Luna smiled, and for a moment, she was just a 6-year-old girl again. Just say, yes, Mommy. Then go outside and look up. But the alert said not to look directly at it. That was to prevent premature network connection. Now it's time. Meredith stood and walked to the door. Through the window, she could see thousands of people moving in perfect formation down their street, all heading toward the large park at the end of the neighborhood. Their humming had become a complex harmony that seemed to resonate in her bones. Will it hurt? She asked. No, Mommy. It feels like coming home. Meredith opened the door and stepped outside. The morning air was crisp and clear, filled with the harmonized voices of her connected neighbors. She looked up at the object in the sky, no longer afraid. The moment her eyes focused on it, the world changed, not in a terrifying way, but in a way that made perfect sense. She could suddenly see the mathematical relationships that governed everything, the orbital mechanics of planets, the quantum interactions of atoms, the elegant equations that described how energy moved through space and time. And there, racing toward Earth like a bullet fired across the cosmos, she could see the asteroid. Its trajectory was a blazing line of certainty that terminated in catastrophe unless her mind connected to the network. And suddenly, she wasn't just Meredith anymore. She was part of something vast and beautiful and brilliant beyond imagination. Millions of human minds working together, their collective intelligence focused on a single, crucial calculation. She began to walk toward the park, her steps automatically synchronizing with everyone around her. Kai walked beside her, his young mind adding computational power to the network. Ravi was there too, his engineering background contributing structural analysis algorithms. In the park, they took their positions in a living mandala that stretched across acres of grass. From above, it would look like an intricate mathematical flower, with Meredith at the precise center. The probe above them began to glow brighter as it prepared to fire. Through the network, Meredith could feel the exact moment when all calculations would converge. She could sense the tremendous energy building in the device, waiting for her final confirmation. The math was perfect. The trajectory correction would work. The asteroid would miss Earth by exactly 47,000 kilometers. Now, she whispered, and the network carried her voice to every connected mind on the planet. The probe fired. A brilliant beam of coherent energy lanced across space, striking the asteroid with precision that exceeded human understanding. The space rock's trajectory shifted by mere degrees, but across the vast distance between Earth and impact, those degrees translated to thousands of kilometers. For a moment, every person on Earth felt the calculation complete, a T they experienced. The asteroid sweeping safely past their planet, its destructive potential neutralized by mathematics and cooperation and love. Then the network dissolved. Meredith blinked and found herself standing in the park with thousands of her neighbors, all looking around in confusion. The object in the sky flickered once and vanished, its mission complete. Mom, Kai was tugging on her sleeve. Are you okay? She turned to see her family looking at her with concern. Avi appeared completely normal, no longer counting or staring. And Luna was just a 6-year-old girl again, rubbing her eyes sleepily as if she had just woken up from a long nap. Mommy, Luna said in her normal little girl voice, why are we in the park? I want to go home. The next few hours were chaos as authorities tried to make sense of what had happened. The official story was mass hallucination caused by unusual solar flare activity. The object in the sky was explained as an optical illusion, and the coordinated behavior as a form of collective hysteria. But 3 days later, astronomical observatories around the world reported that asteroid 2025 LM47 had passed harmlessly by Earth, much farther away than initial calculations had predicted. Meredith never told anyone about what Luna had said during those crucial hours. As far as her daughter knew, she had spent the morning coloring and then somehow ended up in the park. She had no memory of ancient knowledge or time travel or mission briefings. But sometimes, late at night, Meredith would find Luna standing at her bedroom window, looking up at the stars with an expression too old for her young face. And sometimes, just for a moment, those brown eyes would hold the wisdom of centuries. Did we do good, Mommy? Luna would ask in those moments. Yes, sweetheart, Meredith would answer. We did very good. Then Luna would giggle and run back to bed, leaving her mother to wonder if perhaps some gifts were meant to be temporary and some missions were meant to be forgotten. The world continued turning, unaware of how close it had come to ending. And, in a timeline 400 years in the future, a young woman who looked remarkably like Luna smiled as she watched the historical records update themselves. Mission accomplished. Time to go home.